Welcome to CIC. This is number 20. Today I'd like to talk about the littoral. The definition being about a shore or shoreline. But it's not just a single line, the singularity of a line. It's about the worlds bounding that line and how those worlds mix and merge into one another. So at first, the littoral seems very straightforward and unassuming, but in fact, it's worlds within worlds. So today, I'd like to talk about two examples of the littoral, one unusual and one usual. Two videos are about to be spliced in here. The first one was shot at probably the hottest day of this summer. Not just heat, but humidity. And that's why I'll be panting. So, on with the video. Today I'd like to talk about communities, the various people, population of Tosa de Mar. It's, like I said before, it's a former fishing village. Now, mostly the economy is run on tourism. But the ambient resting population of Tosa, real residents, number a little over 6,300 thereabouts. And the annual visitor count is about 384,000 visitors, mostly in the summer, because in the winter Tosa is a bit isolated, desolate, and all the appeal of the beaches and stuff doesn't draw people here very much. But so naturally, like many beach towns, it goes quiet. On a day-by-day basis, there are about 60,000, between 40 and 60,000 fluctuating people that are staying at Tosa at any one time. And the summertime resident population, which that would include me, descriptively, being around 22,000 people. So those are the stats that I gleaned. But what's interesting is the various communities, not only within the permanent resident population, but within the visitors. What I'd like to interject in here is that more can be said about the tourists that come to Tosa. Of course, there are Spanish tourists, Catalans. Sometimes there's a distinction, and over here there's a huge distinction. But there's people that native to this country that come and vacation here, mostly from Barcelona, but from other parts of the country. There's also a lot of French that come here. Aside from those two large blocks, Italians, a lot of Italians come here. There used to be a lot of Germans, actually. Years ago, Germans were buying a lot of properties here, and a lot of restaurants had German ownership and stuff like that. So a lot of Middle East Europeans, a lot of Brits. Yeah, there's also Koreans, surprisingly. There was a video shot, a music video by South Koreans many years ago, maybe 5, and ever since there's been a pilgrimage of mostly young Korean girls that would come here and take their selfies at the same spots that the shooting happened of the video. What else? Russians at one time before the war started. And often, it wasn't unusual to see Russian in the menus here. So there's a whole ecosystem of tourism and tourists from all different parts of the world. Now, more and more every year, I hear American accents in the streets. So a lot of Yankees are coming here too. So, continuing. And within the permanent resident population, there's of course the sort of legacy landowners who, over the years of, the early years of Tosa and the sort of, in a way, prehistoric years when this was just a fishing village. People had owned land back in those days. There's also the entrepreneurs, the business people, the people that own the local grocery stores. Its name is Palau, for example. The family Palau has a lot of properties, and their enterprises are very firm and secure. And I guess this is telling that there's more than one grocery store in Tosa. There's a store that's brand new called the Sklat, which is sort of the modern sort of warehouse style grocery store. Another one called Dia, another called Capravo. So there's 4 grocery stores, which tells you what is the demand in terms of local population, especially during peak season, the food that they're eating. So there's the restaurant lobby in town, which is extremely strong, even though they're being tapped on the shoulder a lot for financing much of the operations here. So they're kind of like taxed a lot. But they're the strong lobby here because they're making the money. The hotel industry, which has had some sort of external corporate forces coming in to build hotels, but there's a lot of pocket hotels. And most famously, the very first one is the Johnstone House. And Nancy Johnstone and her husband built a hotel, the very first one in Tosa back in the 30s when everything was just getting going, especially with the story I told you about the artists that were coming into town. They were the locus for that. What else? There's the migrant worker population. A lot of the waitresses and waiters are coming in, and a lot of just sort of the local support. The people that work in the kitchens, the back rooms, the supplies. There's sort of an indigenous local, beverage and supply companies that all the locals, and you can see the trucks running around in the morning, dropping off supplies from vegetables to paper towels to frozen fish and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting swarm in the morning, watching this sort of supply and the operations run in this town. So I'm describing an ecosystem. And as you can see behind me, let's flip a camera. This is Codalar. And what I want to do today is go swim around Cap Tosa and look at the ecosystem and the communities of marine life that we can see at a littoral, the place where different forces meet, the land and the sea, and the wave action and the weather. And at the point where the most aeration occurs is the most life, and that's where I'm going to investigate around this Cap Tosa and sort of let you guys see what I see when I go snorkeling around the Cape. Kiko and I are old friends. Francisco Noguera. He is a builder, and he's done a lot of work on my house, and we've been friends for over 20 years. And we snorkel a lot together. And so he and I were going to do this expedition around Cap Tosa. And as a builder, watch, he's going to notice some detail in the building here. He's telling me there's a crack in this building. It indicates a settlement of the foundation, and that's a real problem for the building, or something to be mindful of and watch and to make sure it doesn't get bigger. But what and here's a kid saying hello, very cute. That point of the street is a spot for trekkers to go on the southern trail called Camironda. Yeah, but back to Kiko, he grew up here in Tosa. He grew up in that house that you saw me pick him up at. And he knows this place intimately, as you could assume. It was a house that where he would bring water. It didn't have running water at the time. There was no electricity, and he's built that all in over the years. But his mother, that's where he was born, and this is where he would play. So he knows nearly every rock in this part of Tosa. And it's a funny thing about the people here. As you're walking along and you're in conversations, it's not uncommon for them just to stop and just get deeper in the conversation. It's kind of crazy to me just how often it happens. You'll be talking with a local, and then all of a sudden you're stopping. Whoops. Anyway, we're coming down onto the beach, and here the beach is headed by the Chiringuito, and Miguel is paterfamilias of the Chiringuito, and inside I'm saying hello to the family. And this guy here is Tete. He's I think the son or nephew of Miguel, and he's here every summer and manning the place. And here he's making fun of my selfie stick, my homemade thing. He's asking me if that's an Apple product. He's always pulling my leg. They're funny. And so it's time to get geared up and get down to the water. Time to spit in the mask. Make sure it doesn't fog. Get my stuff, and let's jump in. Get my fins on. Paddle back, look for Kiko. Littorals, so it's a special place. It's a little pocket beach with a tower at the end. So Kiko and I together, and out we paddle. And every time we get out here, Kiko is paying close attention to the littoral, to the rocks where the sea splashes against and oxygenates. He's not able to dive deep. So he stays about 3 feet. Because when he was a kid, they would have fun by picking up rocks and walking on the sea bottom, and he burst an eardrum doing that. So he's not able to dive deep, but he doesn't really care. He's paying attention to the life, the rocks, the presence of lapas. They're maybe a cousin of the abalone. They look a lot like abalones, but they're really tiny. And here's Kiko giving me a sea snail. And again, he stops to tell me, mask up. And he says, oh, there's this guy a couple of months ago, and he brought this big bag, that big, full of sea snails. And he says, oh, Tio, what the fuck? Leave some for us. And he says, well, I have a license, and I can do this. And Kiko's upset. Dude, take it easy. Don't take so much out of the sea here. He said, no, don't worry. I left the small ones for you. I took all the big ones. And Kiko's kind of pissed about that. What can you do? He has a license to do that, so... More stories by the sea. So this is Cap Tosa. Pardon the bells. It's noon. I put the sea snail back. Let the bells ring. So I ditched the stick and jumped back in the water a few days later to just do a handheld with this GoPro. It's an ancient GoPro. There's no viewfinder, no viewport, no screen. And so it's troublesome to get framing right. And I'm using this book, Capta Creos, a guidebook, to see if I could identify for you guys the fishes and the sea life that I'm seeing here. And this part of the dive is, the snorkel is a feat of strength, a feat of daring do. And coming out of this little mini chasm here, and these clouds of black fish. I'm not framing it well, but I see this fish all the time, and there's the identification. These are juveniles, so I've learned. And they stay in pods like this, little clouds of fish, just meters off the shoreline. You don't see them on the rocks. They're just out there, maybe eating plankton or something like that. But they're really beautiful. So here's the objective here, to show you guys this littoral, this community. And I'm trying to identify some of these things I'm seeing, these spongy things. Maybe they're lichens, that's what the book says, but I'm not sure if identifying it correctly or not. And I love the water, the mirror of the water above, and how the lens of each segment of the wave of the water underneath reflects what's below and what's above, the light coming through. And this is the oxygenation. This is the waves breaking up, and where these plants are kind of, they live both in and above the water. And there's two fissures in the face of this Captosa, this cape, and this is the second one. And we're going to go inside. This is the lapas I'm showing you that cling to these rocks. And these are barnacles, lots of them. And if you're not careful as you clamber out, you'll get cut. And the fish I'm showing you are the Juliolias. They're beautiful, beautiful fish, and they're all over the place here, but I'm not capturing them today. A little pod or group or whatever of sarpa, little baby sarpa. They got scared when I approached. Usually with a fish, you have to kind of, because of these rocks and where they are underwater, you can kind of creep up behind them, sort of surprise them. When they see you, they jet out. And so you can kind of creep up behind them as you get around the rocks really slowly. At the top of this hill is the lighthouse, and into the fissure, the crack. And there's so much debris in the depth of this crack, I'm not going to take you down into it, but I'm going to take you to the bottom of this seabed in a feat of daring do. And as you can see, as further you go down, the less vibrant. No doubt the life here, the plant life, is as varied. And here I am creeping around the corner and surprising a fish who doesn't run away. And I think it's this fish that I identify out of the book. It's going to pop up in a second. Serra menu. But I don't know. It's my best guess. And it's so great surfacing with the camera. You can see the sun above. And this little cleft in the hill forms like a bathtub in here. It's just gorgeous. Very beautifully deep bathtub. It's not uncommon to see people kayak in here or swim in here and get out of the water, which you have to be careful because the barnacles will just cut you to pieces if you're not choosing your exit correctly. And here's another attempt to catch that point where the air and the sea are mixing together. And now I'm just guessing. This is a close guess, I guess. I don't know what plant this really is, but it's one of these in the guidebook. It's just a beautiful thing. I really like snorkeling in heavy seas as well. I've got gloves on, and I really like sort of getting in close and watching the extreme mixture as the waves are just splashing and bubbles everywhere, moments of disorientation. But you can grab onto the rocks with your gloves and not get thrown all over the place. But this day is a very calm day. Not the calmest I've seen, but pretty calm. And again, I can only imagine what the number and variety of plant life there is here. Little tourist guidebooks are just a taste. Here's a bit of that sea action against the rocks. It's exhilarating to be in the midst of this and riding it. And remember, this is a calm day here. And here's an example of coming around the rocks, and the fish get spooked. And this is the sarpa. And I'll flash the guidebook pretty soon. There it is. They graze on the plant life, and they're kind of like cows that way. Not the best eating. The best eating fish are the fish that eat the plant-eating fish. Plant-eating fish have double stomachs, not unlike cows and ruminant animals. So when you're cleaning them out, you have to search it out. It's kind of gross, really. Coming to the other end of Captosa, just popping my head out. It's about a 50-minute swim around this thing, so I'm cutting a lot out for you guys. And I see moray eels. I've seen them several times before. We're not going to see them today. And octopus. They call them pop here, if you want to see a pop. And sepia, calamari. They eat a lot of calamari, and sepia is delicious. But I've seen all these here. When I first came here over 26 years ago, there were a lot of octopus when I arrived. So much so that people waiting in the beach would have them baby octopus climbing their backs and stuff like that. It was hilarious. But over the years, in a matter of a decade, they disappeared. And only in the last couple of years have we seen them reappear in Tosa, which is fantastic. And this is jellyfish. They call them medusa here. And this brown variety is nothing to worry about. It's the white ones that you want to steer clear from. And these little white dotted plant life in the bottom of the sea are these little guys I'm flashing for you. And they're everywhere, like dandelions in a field. And as the fissures of this hillside go into the sea, and the sea erodes them, in this particular spot, my friend Charlie here showed me that you can do a feat of daring do, which I will do right now, because the action of the currents had eroded the rock here into an arch. And let's dive through the arch. And I would have liked to have lingered here, but I wasn't wearing a weight to help me get down to the bottom here, so it was a struggle to get down, and therefore I was running out of air, but it's the best I can do. So let's get around this corner and come back home. I'm going from Kodalar to the big beach of Tosa. If you round these corners, you can see the tower, the main tower, the sort of the iconic image of Tosa at the entrance. The enclosure of that tower that the towers and walls make is called the Via Vella, the old town, where people would take refuge from invaders. Free-diving kid. getting close into here. Originally, as I emerged from the water here, I have a camera and it's tied with a string around my wrist. And I'm holding it with my hand. But as I'm coming out of the water, I let it drop. And I'm going to walk through the beach here. And it's a lot less awkward than the walk around aiming a camera at everything I see to show you guys, giving you guys a taste of the beach. So the camera's upside down originally, and I flip it over in post. And with this little bit of chaos here, and trust me, it was about 5 or 6 minutes of chaos, and I trimmed it down and edit for you in post to keep you guys from vomiting. But here you can get a taste of the life on the big beach. And I queue up at the shower to rinse the salt water off my head. The salt water here, the Mediterranean, is very silky. It feels really great in the water. It feels great coming out, but it's also wash off your head. For you, the intrepid who made it to the very end, for those who watch the whole video, garlands thrown to you. Thank you so much. Here I am in Tossa de Mar at what I call the Quinto Pino, which is a phrase in Spanish, which in Castellano, known to everyone here, means the fifth pine. In Madrid, when you wanted to meet in secret, preferably a lover, you would go to the fifth pine, which is the fifth pine tree planted on the boulevard, the main boulevard in Madrid. It was where very little was built around it. It was the outskirts. And you would say the Quinto Pino to mean that you're very far and away from everything. And that's what Tossa feels sometimes. But here you and I are meeting at the fifth pine at the end of this video. Thank you so much for hanging in there. See you guys later.